Good day, ladies and gents. It is early February up here in northwestern Canada in a cold, blistering cold, minus 27. The last time I checked, that's minus 27 Celsius for our American friends. Anyway, this is a short video. I'm going to try and keep it within 20 minutes here of my Budget Boxster project. I picked up a 2004 986S last fall. And I've been just spending the winter months picking and poking at a few things that needed immediate attention and other things that I just want to do for cosmetic purposes or personal preferences. Anyway, I'll kick it off with some exterior work, then I'll go into the interior and then talk mechanical. And I'll kick it off with the headlights. These headlights, if you're familiar with the 986, age pretty quickly and pretty horridly. They were controversial when they were brand new, and then they just look downright unattractive as the years go on. The outer lens fades and becomes quite yellow. It's thin, it's flimsy. There was an inner lens here that ends up cooking, and when it cooks, it crystallizes, it turns brown, and it begins to crack off. So I tore the whole thing apart. I followed a couple of YouTube videos where you throw it in the oven at something like 350 for 8 minutes. You pry it apart. I removed that inner lens altogether. I painted this thing black. That's the inner lens, the inner casing. I took that out, painted it black, put it all back together, and then I painted the outer ring. And I did that with a base clear of a dark silver. A couple of reasons why I did that. First of all, when I pried the lens apart, one of the mistakes I made was that I pried it with a screwdriver, and I ended up hitting the inside of this casing. Now, Porsche, when they had it done, they had them painted from the underside. The underside is what I was making contact with my screwdriver as I was trying to pry these things apart. So the finished product there led to a bunch of surface scratches that I just couldn't get rid of. So instead, I took a can of paint and did the exterior with a darker silver. Something that I found with the dark silver was that it's a nice contrast. It's more of a blend into the black than the stark aluminum finish, which I found very loud. On what's already a controversial headlight design, I thought the aluminum silver or light silver was a little much. This helps blend, so I was really pleased with it. Now, when it comes to the headlights, the driver's side was actually in worse shape. So when it came to cleaning them up, it was necessary. Didn't want to replace them again. This is a Budget Boxster, so I'm trying to save where I can and repair what I can. So I threw some silicone adhesive into this crack and this one down here, and then just got some clear tape similar to 3M and just covered them over, and then did the Meguiar's buff job on both of them, and they turned out quite well, as did the paint. Three things I did with the paint on this car. The way I describe a lot of what was going on with this car, I used to describe it as a car that had spent a couple of weeks in a garage with a Labrador Retriever. If you know how wild and crazy those dogs can be, they're always hungry and they're always full of energy. And it looked like a dog had done a job on this car. The hood looked like it had been washed with a bag of rocks. The interior looked like it had been chewed and scratched to pieces. So with the exterior, I used a compound. In some places, like the hood, I used 2 coats of compound. I'll get into some work I did on the trunk, but yeah, after I was done the compound, I applied a new product from Turtle Wax. They're into this hybrid work with ceramics, but they've got this thing called Hybrid Solutions Black Polish and Wax. 2 separate products, the black polish and the black wax. So it's for black cars, as you can probably tell. And put a couple of coats of polish on her, and then went over with a coat of wax and got this. Now I really I wanted to take a look at ceramic, but I was afraid to because I didn't know if I'd be happy with the results of the polish and of the compound, and I was afraid that if I went full ceramic on this thing, that would have been a coat that would have been hellish to try and get off, to try and correct any of the work that I had left unresolved. So I want to wait until I get this thing out in the springtime in the sunshine to see how this this paint correction really holds up. If I'm satisfied with it, maybe then I'll go over it with full ceramic. But until then, I just want to see what I'm looking at here. It's hard to tell under garage lighting. It's not quite the same. So anyway, that was that. Next item, mirrors. The mirrors on this car were in rough shape, and here's why. I think the original owner, well, I know somebody, maybe the original owner, went over this thing with a layer of 3M clear bra. I think the nose was done in clear bra. That was later removed and corrected. But over here on the mirrors, the bra ended up looking like this. It ended up looking worn and flat and scratched up and just worn down. So I removed it. Not easy to remove 18-year-old clear bra. And I learned that on the passenger mirror first. And this is what I ended up with. The reason why this is what it is because I used a product called a Wonder Wheel. And I'm not knocking the Wonder Wheel, I'm knocking how I used it. The Wonder Wheel will chew through anything. It's what's strongly recommended to remove clear bra, but it'll also remove clear coat, your top layer of paint, any layer of paint, chew right through the plastic, as you can see in this close-up. That is pretty deep. So I've got to go over them, clean them up with some Bondo and some fresh paint. But this was my rookie use with the Wonder Wheel. Be careful it doesn't happen to you. Now the other mirror turned out much better because that was the second go around. I learned it as I was going with this. Now the tricky part with the Wonder Wheel, if you haven't used it, is that you can't see your work until you wipe it away. That rubber wheel, the rubber actually dissipates and it splatters and it sprays all over the place, as does the old 3M. So you make a mess as you're going with it. You can't see your work because of the mess that's laying around. You've got to wipe it away. Take a look to see how your progress is. Start it back up again. That was one mistake I made. In those mistakes, one was that I didn't move. At some points I didn't move at all. Other points I didn't move fast enough. And that's what you see there. So careful if you're working with one of those Wonder Wheel. They really do the work on 3M, but they'll take the rest of it too if you're not careful. Let me see. That's the mirrors. What's next? The Emblem. Before I show you what I did, I'll show you what I removed. What I removed was the original Boxster Emblem. Now this thing comes in a sort of an aluminum finish. That most of that finish had worn off the original Emblem. So my thought was, remove it, clean it up, repair it, paint it, stick it back on. A couple of problems I ran into. One, I don't know if it was too much heat with the heat gun or if it was just glued to the car. But I ended up damaging this thing along the way and trying to remove it. And I tried to repair some of the damage. Some of the things, some of the areas sort of buckled and bent along the way with this Emblem, as well as the shape of it changed. So when it came time to put it back on the car, it wouldn't lay flat. As flimsy as it is, I had a hell of a time trying to get it and the adhesive to all lay flat and stick together. And it just looked shoddy, as well as the adhesive itself. I got some of that, the 3M, the tape that you throw a couple of strips across, and then with a hobby knife you sort of carve out around the letters, trying to get it nice and close and clean. And I couldn't get the finish that I was looking for. Even tried it on the car, even tried sticking it to her. And it looked shoddy. It was second rate, so I scratched that idea again. And anyway, ended up scrapping it, went with something else. But as far as paint goes, this is the same paint that I used on the headlights, that dark silver. This was a colonial red. Looked nice here, and if I had been able to maintain the condition of this Emblem, I think it would have went well on the back of the car, but it kind of fell apart on me. So when I took it off, I was at a crossroads thinking either I replace it with the Boxster Emblem or go with something different. That something different is an option that was available on the later Boxsters, the 987s and so on, as well as the 911s, the Caymans and what have you. It is the classic Porsche text. There's a lot of opinion on this text, but I tell you, when it's done right, I love it, and I'm glad I went with the decision I did. This lettering went straight across the car. Uh, some will say it should have a curvature to it, and I respect the opinion, uh, where the E and the P are actually taller. And the reason why they do that, or that they have that option, the reason why Porsche was doing that is because when you look at it from down here, it looks like it's straight across, and it sort of matches this line here on the edge of the trunk. I didn't want that line. I was actually going for the curvature of the trunk. I like the bubbles. You look at the quarter panels, they got bubbles. You look at the fenders over the headlights, they got bubbles. There's these humps there. And the trunk itself is one as well. So when I applied the logo straight across, when you come down and look at it from the rear, yeah, that's pretty sexy. Spacing was an inch and 1/8 in the lettering. Everybody's got their own idea as to how that should go. Porsche itself have their own, but this is what I found worked. And I took a lot of pictures off of Google. I looked at a lot of cars to decide on what I wanted for spacing there, and I thought the execution, it worked out really well. One last thing on the exterior are these pipes. They had never ever been cleaned up. I don't even think they went over them with soap and water on previous ownership. So I actually removed them. It's only one screw, and these pipes come off together as a unit. And then I threw 600 grit sandpaper at them, as well as a product called Barkeeper's Friend, which is a metal restore, brings the shine back. And they don't look brand new, but they're certainly de-aged, as is the rest of the car. Nothing on this thing looks brand new, but it looks much younger, much newer. So that's it for the exterior. On the interior, grab my little booklet here and take you inside. Spent a lot of time in here tearing this thing apart and looking at it in different ways to figure out which direction I wanted to take it in the refresh. First of all is the center console kit. Now, a number of people have gone this route with their cars. Now, when Porsche brought this thing out brand new, their showcase, the centerpiece for this console, as much a sign of the times as it looks, the HVAC unit was up top. 2/3 of this section was HVAC. You had your vents, and then you had the HVAC that controlled them, which was this thing here. Not real attractive. What's even less attractive is the calculator-style digits that show up when you fire up the car and light it up, and they are of the I call it Tron orange, because it looks as old as the 1980s movie Tron. And anyway, yeah, that's what they had up here. That was the main display you saw when you fired up your car, and that was unattractive in any era. The original Porsche radio was a single DIN unit that came across here, which in itself was very, very subtle. You almost lost it because you were staring at this thing. So anyway, the kits that came out, there's a couple of manufacturers. I got the cheap one. It fared out just fine. Nice texture to the plating on this thing. It allowed for a double DIN head unit and then a relocation of the HVAC down bottom, and you get to keep a shelf here. Most people, when they replace this kit, they'll get the real fancy nav system with the CarPlay and the whole thing built in, and it's real nice, but it's expensive. In Canadian bucks, you're looking at $1,000 for a decent one. I didn't want to go that route. I ended up spending $160 on this old Pioneer system, and I say old because it's an old style. It's actually a new unit. It's run through Bluetooth. There's an app. You control the entire stereo through your phone. But it's got a nice appearance to it. It's got a great sound for one, unparalleled sound. The previous owner had already put an amp in here, so this thing is hooked up to that amp and gives off real nice sound. It also has color match display, so the orange that the dials and everything in the car, all that orange is carried over to the stereo. So this lights up orange, the buttons are orange. The display itself, you can have a different color on your display. So I've got like a sort of an off-white, like a gray-white on the actual display, and it really cleaned it up real nice. I'm especially happy with that purchase, with that decision. Other decisions, as far as that Golden Lab attacking the car goes, the shift boot was one of the worst things of all. It was dried out leather and it was torn. It actually looked like someone took a handful of it and just ripped it back, just destroyed it. And it was the first thing that I saw when I took this car for a test drive. I opened the door and I saw that, and I'm like, what am I getting into? What am I literally getting into? So anyway, looked past it, took the car for a drive, and handled like it was on rails. It actually handled like a brand new car. So I took it despite all these appearances. Another one was the seats. The seats were originally black with white stitching, but the seats were in such rough shape you couldn't see the white stitching, and there were tears and rips, and it looked like sandpaper had gone over them in some parts. And on the driver's side, this is the passenger seat, but I'll explain the driver's side. There was a real bad tear here that the owner had wrapped in black duct tape. There were a bunch of bad tears here. The same thing, looked like a dog had chewed it up, that were across here. And again, covered in black duct tape to try and blend in with the black leather seats. It didn't actually blend. It looked horrid. So I ripped up the black. With that black came some of the leather of the original seat. I bought a product called Magic Mender. Google that, and they are as legit as it gets. The reviews are honest reviews. They've got a product that repairs leather. It goes on kind of like a silicone. Looks like a paintable silicone by the time you blend it into your leather and repair. And then you go over it with dye. Again, these were black seats, but they were chewed and crumbled and horrible looking black seats, and I wanted to change the color. This color is called Chateau Red. Now, through the camera, it doesn't look red. And I know because I've taken a number of photos of these seats, and they look more brown than red. And I know they're looking brown in the camera right now. There is a tinge of red that I can see through my eye. When I put sunlight on them, when I've opened the garage door, the red comes out a little more. And that was part in the decision of why I went red with this trim. If you know the 986, you know that there's a flat black trim that goes across here. I painted that red. So what was flat black is now colonial red to match that S that I was going to put back on the back. Now I'll see how that goes with the seat color. If it blends, great. Maybe I'll repaint that. Maybe I'll re-dye the seats. But I want to take it out this spring and see how it all looks and see if they're getting along. If not, I'll change a color. I've gotten this far with it. I can do it again. I think one of the last things as far as interior goes is the color of the console. Porsche gave you this in flat black, the same color as the vents, and the same color as all this casing and stuff. That was flat black. So the silver, the base coat, clear coat, dark silver that I painted the headlight surrounds and the Boxster emblem, this is all done the same color. Looks different in different lighting, of course. As you can see over there, it looks quite a bit brighter, so we'll see what the sunlight does to it. But there they are. I wanted to spruce it up. A flat black for some finishing items, especially your centerpiece, I thought was an injustice to this car. So I spruced it up with something that's still subtle. It's not the piano black that the car is painted. But it is something to break up what's going on here, and something to separate it from the actual vent fins, which are just black plastic. So that's essentially it for the interior. One last thing. This used to sag. Now it doesn't. Magnet, screw head. There we are. It's in. Doesn't sag. It might drop when I hit a bump. We'll find that out in the spring. If so, I can add more magnets. But that was just a subtle, easy way of bringing this guy back up. And so far, it seems to be effective. What else is on my list? As far as mechanical goes, when I bought this car, I thought I was going to have to go into a new what do you call that thing? They were invented because of California. comes off the manifold. You got 2 of them on this thing, and it's a cat converter. I thought I was going to have to replace a cat converter. The car was throwing a code, and they're known to fail, especially on a car with this mileage. Maybe it's been replaced already, but it wasn't the case. It was just an O2 sensor. I'm real thankful for that. The front hood actuator, also known to fail. That was an easy replacement. I tried to repair the thing, but no, I think maybe the spring inside the actuator was worn down. Everything else was working. It's just that under load, it wasn't enough to pull that latch. So I replaced the actuator. Cheap. It was only like $70. Serpentine belt. Here's a cool one. If you don't own one of these cars, the engine's right back there. It was real easy for me because I had the seats out of the car, but this carpet, that comes out. There's a little metal plate in the back, this little rectangular plate, a dozen screws or so. The plate comes off, and there's your engine. All your pulleys and your belt, it's right there. So replacing the serpentine belt on these things, super easy, super quick. Got that done in a flash. And the last thing to do is surface. One thing I learned with this car just this week was that you don't replace the fuel filter on the later 986. It's got what Porsche calls a lifetime filter, which is actually up in the gas tank and not readily available to change out. They're saying it's a lifetime filter. We'll wait and see. From there, it's your air filters, oil filter, oil change. Actually, that's all ready to go here, and I'm just waiting for the next convenient day to do that. And that's pretty much the car in a nutshell. All that and Scotch guarding the soft top here, which itself is in great shape. I was thankful that there's no hang-ups with the top. Everything's in place and everything works great. Could have been under some maintenance work in the past, but so far so good. That's the car, and it's February. I still got a couple of months to go before I can get her back out on the road, so I'm impatiently waiting. Hope you're having a better winter, and I hope this video helped you with your ownership journey. Thanks. Take care.